So usually when I make these kind of videos, I end up hurting the feelings of somebody's favorite player. But honestly, I don't care, so let me just give you guys my criteria. This list is going to be based off of what I have seen this year from that particular player. So do not come to me a month later, 3 months later, or hell, even a week later if James Harden or Damian Lillard goes on a tear, because it's based off of right now. I also will say that durability and the amount of games you've played in comparison to your counterparts, that will factor into this list as well. I mean, we're about 30 games into the season, and I don't think this list is going to change that much unless certain players just get worse dramatically or better dramatically, and I don't really see much of that happening outside of a couple of players. But without further ado, y'all do me a quick solid favor and drop a like on this video. It helps me out with the algorithm, and your boy Young Mustard would love that as a Christmas present. A little bit late, but hey, it's a present nonetheless. By the way, I hope you guys had a great Christmas. I did, so yeah, that's that. Don't forget to also subscribe to the channel and press that bell for post notifications. So that's it. Those are the only Christmas gifts you gotta give me: a like, subscription, and a bell for post notifications. If you can do those things for me, those will be the best gifts your boy Young Mustard could ever have. But without further ado, let's kick things off with the first player coming in at number 10. Coming in to start us off at number 10, we have Cleveland's own Darius Garland. Darius Garland, for those who don't know, I'm a big fan. I made a video about him before the season started. I said he's gonna be the breakout star that nobody was talking about beforehand, and just look at it. Now everybody's talking about him because he's a breakout star. I mean, there's a legit chance that he could be an all-star in the Eastern Conference, and that's very impressive for a player that in his rookie season people thought he was one of the worst starters in the NBA. And now just 2 years later, he's on the verge of being an all-star and is a top 10 point guard in my personal opinion. The growth in Darius Garland's game has truly been fun to watch, as over the last 21 games, Garland has averaged 21 points along with 7 assists and 3 rebounds, a steal and a half, shooting 48% from the field, 37% from 3 on over 7 attempts a game, and 93% at the free throw line. The man is literally in the god tier when it comes to that floater. He can play make, especially out of the pick and roll with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and he's also one of the better shooters not only at his position but in the entire NBA. And with more time in his game, I hope that he can pull up from that Dame range, because he'd be taking some deep threes and be swishing them, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, DG is easily one of my favorite players in the NBA. Hopefully with time he can rise higher in the ranks amongst point guards, but for now the 10th spot will do. But moving on to number 9, I have Russell Westbrook. Now I know this is going to be controversial to some people, but I honestly do not give a single flying fuck. If anything, I'm not gonna lie, y'all niggas should be lucky that Westbrook even made the damn list. And I know people are gonna point out the numbers because that's all that Russell Westbrook fans have. I get it, he's averaging 28 and 8, right? But he's doing it on some of the worst shooting in the NBA. 45% from the field, that's relatively decent, but 30% from 3 on 4 attempts a game, that's well below average. 65% shooting from the free throw line, that is also far below average, especially for your starting point guard. And then you combine that with the fact that he has a true shooting percentage of 52%, which is also below average. How can you even justify that? And then to top things off, he may be averaging 8 assists a game, but he's also turning the ball over nearly 5 times a game, 4.6 to be exact. So even when you look at the stats outside of points, rebounds, and assists, and just fill out the rest of the box score, Westbrook is not really playing that great of basketball right now, especially for his standards. And honestly, I could bash Russ all I want, but I might actually talk him up a little bit. I don't think he's playing as bad as some people are saying. He's had some really good games this season, but when you're comparing how impactful he's been to other point guards, the guys above him have just been far more impactful to winning basketball. But that then brings us to number 8 on this list, and I have LaMelo Ball. One of the most beloved players in the league, LaMelo has truly been on one this season. This is a guy that coming into the year already won the Rookie of the Year, so you knew the expectations were pretty high for him. And so far, for the most part, he has delivered, averaging 20 points a game along with 8 rebounds and 8 assists on 42, 38, and 92 shooting splits. Similar to Darius Garland, LaMelo Ball is truly in that god tier when it comes to that floater game. The guy is literally shooting 49% on all of his floaters, and he'd be taking some deep ass floaters. We'd be talking near the free throw line. It's crazy how efficient he is on that type of shot. And sure, on the defensive side of the ball, I would like to see a lot more improvement because the Hornets could surely use it, but offensively you can truly see the impact of his game, whether it's his playmaking, the spacing he provides, or just the overall impact of him being on the court. LaMelo has truly been a joy to watch this season, and seeing his growth in the NBA is going to be a fun ride for everybody involved. But moving on to number 7, we have Ja Morant himself. Now Ja I probably would have put higher if he played more games, but he did miss a good portion of the season so far, so I have to put him at number 7. But that isn't a knock, because the guys above him, they're having good seasons in their own right, or they're just better players. But when we're talking about the most improved player of the year candidates, Ja Morant is right in the thick of the discussion, as this year he has improved all around, as he's one of the best finishers in the league. I believe he's number 1 still in points per game in the paint, and when you look at his abilities as a playmaker, it truly is up there with the best of them. I mean, the guy's averaging a career high in points per game with 23 a game, 7 assists and 6 rebounds on 47% shooting from the field and 78% at the free throw line, while having a true shooting percentage of 56%. Ja's ability as a playmaker with rim pressure and even his now extended range at the 3-point line, which isn't perfect, but it's getting better. You can see the strides of this season. It truly has elevated him to another level of a player in the NBA that is a fringe top 5 point guard as we speak. But moving on to player number 6, that brings us to Dame Dollar himself. We're right outside the top 5, so I know a lot of people are probably going to be angry that I don't have Dame in it right now. But please don't take this as me saying the guys above him are just solidified as better point guards and players than Damian Lillard, because that is not what I'm trying to say by putting Damian Lillard at 6. It just means that this season he just hasn't had a better year than the guys above, because we have to take into account that Damian Lillard was playing through a core injury and started off the season pretty slow. And for a player that does rely on his jump shot pretty heavily in his game, I would say that's a pretty big deal to say the least. But over his last 11 games, especially since he's been back, Dame has gone back to normal, as he's averaging 29 points a game along with 7 assists and 4 rebounds, shooting 43% from the field, 38% from 3 on nearly 11 attempts, and 91% at the free throw line. Now I'm not going to talk about the whole Damian Lillard being in Portland situation, because it just is what it is, and I've talked about that way too much. But as far as what Dame has done this season, his numbers overall may look pretty bad in certain aspects, but it's just bad for his standards, and he has still played better as the season has progressed, so I have to give him some level of credit for that. But let's transition into the top 5, and to start things off, it's gonna get a little controversial, I'm sure. I have James Harden. Now Harden this year has been pretty sus for his standards, but overall I would say he's had a relatively decent season. I mean, with averages of 21, 10, and 8 along with the steal and a half on 58% true shooting, it's no surprise to see him in the top 5. Despite his scoring not being as consistent as it used to be and coming in spurts rather than just the entire season overall, he's still one of the league's best playmakers with the ability to break down defenses, especially in the pick and roll, as one of the better pick and roll ball handlers in the NBA. And even though his scoring has not been up to par for his own standards, that's just because his standards are crazy high. Like, this would still be a career season for most players, but because we hold James Harden to a top 5 to 7 player in the NBA standards, then obviously we expect better than this. And I'm not going to go through the whole rundown, as I've made a video in the past talking about it. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go and check it out. But nonetheless, James Harden has still had a relatively decent year that's worthy of being in the top 5, but I can't put him any higher than 5. And hopefully if he gets back to his senses and returns to the James Harden of old, then I can put him higher on this list eventually. But let's move on to number 4 on this list, and that brings me to Luka Doncic. Now Luka has had a pretty good year statistically. I mean, 26, 8, and 9. Yeah, that's pretty solid numbers in the box score. But when you look at his efficiency in certain respects, it just doesn't look good. He's shooting below 70% at the free throw line, and that's not acceptable for any player, and especially your starting point guard. And even his true shooting percentage is below average at 54%. And for a player coming into this season that many people pegged as an MVP candidate, he has completely bombed those expectations. But the real reason why I can't put him higher on this list is primarily just due to his availability. The other guys above him have either played better than him or have played more games than him. And considering that the players around this level are in the elite tier of players at this position, I would say availability has to come into factor here. But please don't take that for me saying Luka's been bad this year. I don't subscribe to that narrative that Luka's having like a bad season. I mean, how can you look at 26, 8, and 8 and say that's a bad year? That's not a bad year. I just think that the standards for Luka Doncic, especially considering people are hailing him as the next GOAT, are so high to where if he doesn't meet being a top 5 player in the NBA, people are just going to look at it as a bad season and a failed opportunity. But please, let's not forget that this is a 22 20-year-old. He just became a legal adult last year. And it's not like the team around him combined with his head coach is just set up for him to succeed perfectly. But nonetheless, he's still having a great year. It's just not up to par with the guys above him, primarily due to his durability. But let's move on to player number 3, and that brings us to the point guard himself, Chris Paul. Chris Paul yet again having another great season. I mean, we're just talking about the model of consistency for somebody at this age and stage in his career, averaging 15 and 10, also with 4 rebounds. Don't forget he's also leading the league in assists, and he's doing that with a true shooting percentage of 58% along with 2 steals as well. And when you look at his on-off numbers, they truly are amazing and further show how great his impact is on this Phoenix Suns team. As for when he's on the court, they have an offensive rating of 114, and when he's off the court, it drops to a 108.1. And let's not sleep on his impact on the defensive side of the ball. He's still able to go out there, fight through screens, guard point guards, and I'm talking about some of the better point guards in the league, and do a pretty good job on them. So props to CP3, he's really been in his bag this year. He's truly been on one. I just hope the media doesn't try to force feed him in the MVP conversation, because that would be extremely lame. I'm not trying to see another Steve Nash MVP. But moving on to player number 2, this may surprise some of you, but I have Trae Young. And I have to admit, I'm very surprised that I have Trae Young here, not because he doesn't deserve it, but because I just didn't expect him to be this good this year. Because after a slow start with him in the Atlanta Hawks, I have to say Trae Young has been setting the league on fire, averaging nearly 30 points a game along with 9 assists and 4 rebounds, shooting 48% from the field, 41% from 3 on 8 attempts, and 88% at the free throw line. I mean, we're talking about a player that's arguably one of the top 3 playmakers in the game of basketball today. His ability to maneuver in the pick and roll is unparalleled among a lot of players in the NBA. He can pick apart a defense in the half court, whether it's with missed rotations or them just doubling him. He can get rim pressure rather consistently, and as far as his 3-point shooting goes, he may not be Steph Curry or Damian Lillard, but he's still one of the better shooters in the league and having his best shooting season to date. And to think he's done a lot of this with the Hawks missing key players at points in the season, as DeAndre Hunter was out after the first 11 or so games, and also Bogdanovich, who missed some time in his own right. Trae truly is the engine of the Atlanta Hawks offense, and it has been a joy to watch what he's done this season as he's blossomed into one of the top 3 point guards in the NBA. But speaking of MVP, that brings us to the last position on this list, the number 1 spot. And obviously, I think we all know the answer to this question. It is clearly Steph Curry. I mean, I don't even think I have to go over the numbers. We all know what Steph Curry brings to the table. The greatest shooter of all time, just broke Ray Allen's record, in fact. And this year, despite the slump that he's been in recently, he's still having an MVP caliber season that is more than worthy of being the best point guard in the NBA. I don't think I have to spend too much time. If you disagree with the number 1 spot, then I honestly think you should be drug tested. But hey, those are just my opinions on the top 10 point guards in the NBA so far this season. If any of you guys disagree, then let me know down below in the comment section your top 10 point guards. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and press that bell for post notifications. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.